Some of you might be forgiven for not having heard of Recruit Holdings, but I'm sure most of you must have heard of their very familiar brand names. They're the parent company of Glassdoor and also Indeed.com, which is the world's largest employment site. They're a Japanese company, very much global though, and headquartered in Tokyo. Recruit listed on the Tokyo Stock Exchange in 2014, and today it has a market cap of about $100 billion US, which makes it one of the country's top 10 companies. And joining me today is Sena. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today. The Chief Operating Officer of Recruit and also a member of the board of directors. She has been in charge of multiple divisions across the company and has also been leading the sustainability transformation of Recruit Holdings as well. Sena is also one of the youngest female directors among all Japan's listed companies and really has been pushing on this goal of sustainability and a commitment to clear targets and a timeline since May 2021. So just to kick things off, Sena, I've heard that Recruit is approaching sustainability in a very unique sort of way. Could you perhaps let me know, how have you been proceeding with this?
Thank you for having me. It is an honor to be here with you today. So Recruit, we have been pursuing sustainability in the center of our management. There are many companies who earns great profit, and there are many organizations who does great things for society, but there are very few who does both in scale. So we aspire to be one. So we want to grow by doing good, and that financial growth part can be measured in our financial performance. And so we thought that doing good part, the social impact part, that also should be measured. So we announced our sustainability commitments in year 2021 when new management took over. We have 5 quantitative targets with a 10-year time frame. So we're on a journey to hit these targets by 2030.
So what are some of the targets that you have set?
So as you kindly introduced, we help people get jobs. So I think what we consider to be particularly distinctive are around S-pillar targets. So for example, we set the target of shortening the duration of job search by half by 2030. And this originally came from the data that we saw in year 2020 from OECD, which said more than 40% of households could fall under poverty line if they don't have income for 3 months.
And that's an astounding number. We were talking about this backstage. I mean, 40%.
Right, in OECD countries.
And that's really arresting, in OECD countries,
So that data showed us, and also year 2020 was, as we all experienced, was the COVID year, right? So it puts things into perspective, right? What we do as a business, we match people with jobs, and we say that we're number one in the market, but we saw so many people losing their jobs. And so we discussed very seriously about how can we contribute to society, and we decided that we want to shorten the duration of job search by half by 2030, and that could contribute to society because it will be better for their financial securities and stuff. So that's one target. The another one also in S-pillar is to help 30 million people facing barriers get hired. So some issues cannot simply solved by improving our matching efficiency alone. So, like for example, there are people facing barriers in the job market. For example, like educational background being one of them, or maybe disabilities, or they don't even have an access to technology sometimes. So we want to be specific about these audience, and we need to go above and beyond for them to get hired. So we set a specific target for 30 million people facing barriers getting hired by 2030. The other S-pillar target we set is about ourselves. So we set the gender parity goals for ourselves in each, like all layers. So individual contributor level to manager level to the top executive layers too, that we want to be at parity by 2030. So those are the S-pillar targets. We have one E-pillar target and we have one G-pillar target. So total 5 targets that we announced in year 2021. So those are the targets that we set.
I know this morning session was a lot about the E, sort of part of the ESG equation, and you're very much focused on the S part of that. And some say it's quite difficult to come up with these specific numbers around the sustainability pillar. So why, I'm just curious, why did you sort of set that as a specific target within the sustainability realm?
I think it is true that like E-pillar compared to E-pillar, where like the name of the game is set and that's net zero, and everybody is going for that. And compared to that, it's a little tricky to set targets in S-pillar, but that doesn't mean that you cannot do it. So I think there are 3 key ingredients that we cared about when we set that target. So the first one, it needs to be measurable. S-pillar can be like fluffy, right? Like we aspire to like. It
can be.
Yeah, right?
We do that a lot with with greenwashing with companies.
Yeah. But then you need to be able to measure something to make improvements. So it needs to be measurable. That's one. The second point is it needs to be directly linked to your business growth. The third point is it needs to come from within. So maybe I'll explain the second one, the direct link to the business. So maybe taking a look at our case, for example, shortening the duration of job search by half, right? That's good for society. But it could also mean, half the duration means double the speed. Double the speed could mean it's double the value. And that could also mean double the monetizing opportunity for us. So it makes sense commercially, long term, for us too. So that direct link to your business growth is critical when you really want to make it happen. So that's the point 2. And maybe if I can add some color to that third one, it needs to come from within part. Like when you set the target, you hope that everything goes as planned and smoothly. And we all know that that's not really the case in our real life. So I've received tons of questions from our institutional investors, from our employees, from medias, like, how are you guys actually doing? Are you actually going to hit it? Like, where are you, right? And we share our progress every year, very openly, some success, some failures. And so you face those tough questions every year. And you need to strive forward in those difficult times. And so you've got to want to do it to be able to go forward. So I think it's okay to start the conversation by having pressure externally, maybe from investors, maybe from your employee. But I think at the end of the day, you need to want to do it. So I think those 3 ingredients are very important for target setting.
And that 2030 timeframe, I mean, 10 years is a long time, many people think, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's actually quite short. But I suppose it's still a time frame that is comprehensible to most people. Most people can think at least 10 years forward. Then again, you know, as we've just said with COVID, I mean, many things can happen in that 10-year period that you're not, you just can't possibly foresee. So, but it just can, you maybe add a little bit of colour about the 10 years for you.
Sure. So maybe if I may speak a little personal stuff too, like it all started in 2020. Yeah. I knew I was going to be nominated for the board director next year, and I would have that power, right? And I was asking myself, what do I want to do? And, you know, as I said, we match people with jobs, and we have, 350 million unique users that come on our site every month. We hire 23 hires per minute every day, all 3 years. So it adds up to, 12 million hires annually. And it's great to be number one in one arena. But if you look at the Earth from other planet, who is number one in HR matching market doesn't matter. I mean, it does to me, but it doesn't in the grand scheme of things, and it shouldn't. But how are we going to use this increasing power and influence does matter. So that's how we started that conversation. And when we set the targets, for example, maybe gender parity is the easiest one, how to make it happen in 10-year time frame where you see gender parity in all level, including the executive level. And again, to put things into context, Japan is not known for gender equality, right? I think we can all agree on that one. So there are lots of pushback internally, even before setting that target. And I still have those questions from my investors, like, Sena, how are you actually going to make it, right? And I always say, we have 10 years, and let's look back 10 years ago. So our target was set in 2021. So let's say 10 years before that, so 2011, let's say, if I had asked the executive team of our company 10 years ago, and if we look at the company where we were at the time, the revenue from outside of Japan was 1%, 2%. So it was ignorable, basically. We were very domestic, non-public company in Japan. And over the 10-year time frame, we grew massively, and the revenue from outside of Japan was already over 50% in the year 2020. So for me, if I had asked that question to the top management 10 years ago, I don't think they had any clear path to get to where we were in year 2020. And that gives me hope, right? Yeah. 10 years is long enough to make something impossible possible. Yeah. So when I'm asked by investors, how are you going to make it? Do you have a clear path? I always answer, I don't have one yet. Yeah. We'll figure it out. And we try new things. As a tech company, we have 500 A/B testing at any given time. So we try new things. Some succeed, some fail, and that's okay, right? Yeah. But I think 10 years is a time frame that you can do something that you cannot even imagine.
Exactly.
Can be done.
Let's dig a little deeper into gender parity goals. You mentioned Japan is not leading the world when it comes to that. How realistic is gender parity?
We need to make it realistic, right? I think we're fed up. We need to end this conversation on a panel talking about gender equality. We need to end this as a topic in our generation, I think. So we're making good progress on that. For us as a group, for individual contributor, we're already at parity. So that's good. For the top management layer, which we had anticipated the toughest to move the needle on, the women representation was from 10%, grew to 26%. So we're moving to the right direction. But again, we have parity as our goal. So we have a long way to go there. And for the boardroom, we also set the gender parity target for the boardroom. And we were 20% women representation, and now it's 33% this year. So again, that improved, but it's not parity yet, so we've got a long way to go.
What level of the companies do you think it's most difficult to achieve gender parity? You mentioned the senior management. You thought that perhaps would be challenging. You know, maybe you can elaborate a little bit about that. But are there other layers of perhaps middle management or even more junior people coming into the workforce? Is that easier to achieve gender parity at that point, or are there different sort of obstacles that present itself?
I think it's universal that the higher the layer goes, the level goes, it's more difficult. So it's common to see the numbers go down when you get to the higher level internationally. So I think that's something that we have in common. And what can drive the better mix of gender can vary from country to country or operation to operation. For example, at Indeed, especially in the US, the biggest driver for gender equality is the hiring. So we need to make sure that we hire from diverse candidates. So we set the own rule of inclusive interview rule. The hiring managers cannot start interview process if they don't have diverse candidates. So those things worked. Compared to that, in Japan, hiring was already at 50-50, roughly speaking. But the promotion was very different from between male to female managers. And that's got something to do with the social responsibility or social aspect of what are expected of women to do at home, kind of thing. So I think it's common to see higher side have less representation, but what drives better mix of gender, I think that is different, operation by operation, so you need to tackle with that, like where the problem is coming from.
Yeah, yeah. I think we are almost just about out of time, so thank you very much for you know, joining us in this conversation. We do have a couple of minutes left, so I'm just going to throw it open to the audience. Any questions at all? We can, I think these are...
I'm happy to represent here. So we do actually have sort of a comment on the poll that happened before your session started that I think really relates to some of the stuff that you're saying, Sena. The person said the question should have an option for empathy. So, you know, spinning off of that, I'm curious as to how in the, you know, new world of labor, you're looking at soft skills for things such as empathy.
Yeah, I do agree. I was actually looking at the poll, and I found that very interesting. And like naturally, you know, to have the innovative mind as the top of the three. I think, you know, we don't compete with technology, right? Technology will help us do better, be better. But soft skills are something that at the moment only us human has, right? So in that way too, like that's something that we can do better and more. So yeah, I do agree.
Yeah, empathy is definitely important. Any other questions? No, I'm not seeing any out there. So look, thank you all very much, and thank you especially to Sena. Thank you for joining us here today. Thank you.